Picture yourself on a backpacking trip across Central America with your friends. One of them, Fred, who is allergic to nuts, suddenly collapses on the ground and has a strong anaphylaxis, a life-threatening allergic response. As you are speeding towards the coast on a small motorboat, you have to administer epinephrine to Fred in order to save his life. You put the needle in his leg, but the medicine is not being distributed. You unroll the long instructions written in very small text that are attached to the injector and read them as carefully as you can. While the captain is yelling something to you in Spanish, other tourists on the boat are screaming in panic, and Fred is wheezing, unable to breathe. You follow the instructions, but the medicine is still visibly inside the needle. Out of options, you stab your friend's thigh 11 times, and it somehow works. You get to the hospital in time, and after a couple of hours, Fred is released with no serious injuries. Days later, you learn that the injector wasn't working because you didn't remove a little yellow color at the end of the syringe. The situation that I described happened for real to Cynthia Savard-Saucier, co-author of the book Tragic Design. Here are her reflections on the incident. For whatever reason, I couldn't find this color, maybe because it was yellow, the second color listed as a possibility for this piece. And in my hurry, I rushed through the text and missed that. Maybe because it was the 9th step on the double-sided instruction sheet, written in a very, very small font on a paper that was flapping around because of the wind. Maybe because I was trying to read while calming my friend and dealing with the Spanish pilot, who was also giving me instructions. Maybe because I thought that the plastic part was a design embellishment. Or maybe simply because in such a stressful situation, I was freaking out and unable to follow complex instructions. Fortunately, her story had a positive outcome. However, in this video we are going to uncover 3 different cases where poor design choices led to disasters and fatal accidents. The book Tragic Design opens with a chapter that describes how a poorly designed user interface led to the death of a young girl. Jenny was diagnosed with cancer and she was about to start a new treatment with a very potent medicine. The treatment was very aggressive and it required proper pre- and post-hydration through intravenous fluids. After the medicine was distributed, the nurses used charting software to monitor the patient's status. Due to the poorly designed interface, the nurses missed the information about Jenny's hydration requirements. Judging by the provided screenshots of the software, the density of information is extremely high, and critical information is not visible right away because the colors prevent it from being highlighted. As a consequence, the girl died just 1 day after receiving her treatment due to toxicity and dehydration. I think that the conclusion reached by the authors of the book is highly accurate. As design professionals, learning about these stories is heart-wrenching. How can a critical life or death service be employing such horrible software? Isn't a person's life and well-being worth putting the appropriate resources into good design? It's almost impossible not to ask ourselves if we could have made a difference in preventing Jenny's death had we been involved in the design process. Jenny's case is undoubtedly tragic, and regrettably, the circumstances that led to her death are not uncommon. Another illustration of an even more lethal design flaw in the medical field is the story of Therac 25. This radiotherapy machine intended for cancer treatment was designed to deliver a safe dosage of radiation using either an electron or X-ray beam. Instead, between 1985 and 1987, it caused massive overdoses to 6 patients, 3 of whom later died from their injuries, while the remaining 3 were seriously harmed. The machine was operated through a complex command line user interface, which had multiple bugs and problems. The most serious one is the error handling. If the program detected any errors in the process of entering the values for the treatment, it would just display a generic error message like malfunction 54. Many of these messages were not even listed in the manual for the machine, and so the operators got used to just overwriting those errors with a simple press of a button. By doing so, the 6 tragic incidents happened. In one of them, the patient got blasted with 17,000 rad. A dose of 1000 rad over the whole body is already considered to be fatal, so one can easily imagine what damage 17,000 rad would do to an area the size of a coin. Over the following weeks, the radiation-inflicted wound would transform into a large hole described as a slow-motion gunshot. One of the patients that got blasted with the incorrect dose of radiation immediately realized something is wrong after feeling immense pain. He started screaming, ran across the room, and started banging on the door. Typically, the operator would hear and see all of this through an intercom and camera mounted in the treatment room, but both of those things were out of order that day. The patient was later spitting blood, and paralysis overtook the left side of his body. He died 5 months later. In the aftermath of these incidents, the company denied the possibility of such events occurring and stated that their software was bug-free, but later investigations proved them wrong. All the 11 machines were recalled from hospitals, and Therac 25 became a well-documented textbook example of how software, due to poor design decisions, can result in loss of life. Ultimately, this machine claimed 3 lives, still very little in comparison to the next case of Flight 148, where the toll would be even higher. Air Interflight 148 was scheduled to land in Strasbourg on January 20, 1992. Both pilots were very experienced and knew the Strasbourg airport well. Due to poor weather conditions, the control tower recommended a different runway to the pilots, which the pilots accepted. They reprogrammed the plane's autopilot, made the final turn to align the machine with the runway, and initiated the landing procedure. As they cleared the clouds, they came face to face with a mountain. The plane crashed. 87 people died and 9 miraculously survived. An investigation was started, and after some time the conclusion was that the crash was a result of pilot error while programming the autopilot for the landing procedure. The Airbus A320, which was used in this flight, has 2 modes for descent: flight path angle, FPA, and vertical speed mode, VS. The pilot can use both for landing, but they both require different measurement units, degrees and feet per minute respectively. According to the black box recordings, the pilot wanted to enter a descent angle of 3.3 degrees, but he had the incorrect mode selected, and he instead set the vertical speed to minus 3,300 feet per minute. The provided images of the Airbus A320 display showed that the only difference between the modes is the presence of a decimal and the small letters above the value. This is very hard to spot in a cockpit which has hundreds of knobs, lights and displays. In this tragic accident, the pilot forgot to push the mode button before inputting the values and then failed to notice his mistake in time. The crash happened just a minute after the landing sequence was initialized. It was impossible for the pilots to see the mountain through the clouds, and as many pilots claim, it is very difficult to tell if you are rising or falling, going fast or slow, especially in such weather. After the design flaw behind this crash got discovered, the plane manufacturers all updated their designs to not use the confusing modes for such crucial operations, as well as make their interfaces more readable. If you found this video interesting, you might also be interested in my earlier video about software bugs that cause disasters. Also, if you'd like to learn more about the consequences of bad design, I would highly recommend that you read the book Tragic Design by Jonathan Shariat and Cynthia Savard-Saucier, which helped me immensely in writing the script for this video. Thank you for watching.